Hello out there. My name is Laolu Akonde, and you are on to Inside Sources. But first, here is my take for today, entitled Matters Miscellaneous. I'm looking at a few things. Number one, Dangote, Farouk, and Komolafe still on the oil and gas sector. The matter between Alhaji Aliko Dangote and Mr. Farouk Ahmed has led to Mr. Ahmed's removal. While we must commend the president for the swift action, considering that the allegations against Farouk have constituted an effective distraction from his job, we should expect that the ICPC will proceed with the investigation nonetheless, so that the removal of the NMDPRA boss does not become a soft landing for him merely. In fact, we see no reason why Mr. Farouk ought not to take the fight to redeem his image seriously, just in case he has a good explanation for the allegations Alhaji Dangote leveled against him. But his behavior, issuing a statement on Tuesday evening and lying about it, that he didn't issue it on Monday morning, is at least an act of curious panic, and that is much undesirable. Mr. Farouk Ahmed owes it to himself and owes it to this nation that is served to explain his own side of this story. His reputation going forward should still matter, even though he has lost his job. But why was Mr. Gbenga Komolafe removed, by the way? He had only 10 months left to his job, and he was doing very well, Mr. President. You should have kept him to finish the good work that he was doing. That is Mr. Gbenga Komolafe. There are many people in the oil sector today, oil and gas sector today, who could swear by Komolafe that he was doing notable stuff, repositioning the oil and gas industry in the country and across Africa, including his plan for Nigeria to target crude oil production level of 2.5 million barrels per day by next year. He is believed by many to be hardworking in repositioning the nation's oil and gas industry towards more transparency and sustainability and growth. So, Mr. President, why did you have to remove Mr. Komolafe when he has only 10 more months to go? Point number two, Mr. Trump and Nigeria again. The U.S. government announced earlier this week through a presidential proclamation that it was tightening immigration entry restrictions on nationals from countries deemed to have persistent and severe deficiency in screening, vetting, and information sharing. Now, while some countries face outright bans, Nigeria has now been placed under partial restrictions. That means from 1st of January next year, Nigerians seeking business, tourism, student, and exchange visas will have to face additional limitations, higher scrutiny, and far fewer approvals. The proclamation notes that this is because of security and also talks about the fact that the rate of Nigerians who overstay their visa time allowed is something that is worrying to the American authorities. However, this is going to be tough for several well-meaning Nigerians who are law-abiding and who have legitimate and very mutual purposes for going in and out of America. For instance, it is believed that more than 50% of black physicians in the United States are Nigerians. They will have reasons to go up and down. So what we would like to suggest to the American government is that in implementing these new restrictions, it should be useful to be very particular about individual cases and pay attention to individual merits in such a way that won't punish people who have lived up to decent expectations and whose lives have become intertwined for good causes with the American society. Just like the fact that more than half of black students in American universities hail from Nigeria. Why should we inhibit that, Mr. President? And then, Mr. President, please don't forget too soon your professed affection with a group of Nigerians that you recently described as cherished. Otherwise, these new travel restrictions will send a contradictory message to them. Mr. US President, do you really love those cherished Nigerians or not? Because right now we are confused. And the third point is on the Buhari era books. This week, we have seen the launching of two President Muhammadu Buhari books. One obviously procured by the former First Lady, Mrs. Aisha Buhari, and the other by Buhari's Information Minister, Alhaji Lai Muhammad. While we are yet to get snippets from Mr. Muhammad's book, the one authorized by the immediate past First Lady, titled From Soldier to Statesman, has raised quite a few issues, especially around how the wife of the former president and her children view some of the people around former President Buhari while he was in office, the so-called cabal. As someone who was a spokesperson in that administration, there is concern that the book is not allowing sleeping dogs to lie. And this is not to criticize its publication at all. We should have more and more books, but the disclosures that are in the book don't seem to serve the good memory of the president. For instance, what purpose does it serve that the president felt insecure and lived in fear inside Aso Villa while he was president, as his daughter has now told us? For God's sake, he was the president, the commander-in-chief. If he was indeed worried, what stopped him from doing something about it? The buck stopped on his desk as president. Why should we believe that a retired general who became president and commander-in-chief for the second time cannot displace people who made him insecure? More questions, more readings, I dare say. And there you have it. Inside Sources gets on the road, full blast, right after this. Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today, I'm leading the show with a conversation with a leading human rights activist, somebody who is an advocate for many good causes, including currently the good cause to have special seats for women in the National Assembly. She's currently the executive director of NLB Center for Development, formerly country director of Action Aid, and also the former convener of the Civil Society Situation Room. I'd like to welcome for the first time to Inside Sources, Comrade Ene Obi. Comrade sister, welcome to Inside Sources.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Glad to be here.
Excellent. So I'd like to start by asking you that if you look at where we are today as a country, do you think that we are heading in the direction of that great country that many of us believe is the destiny of our country?
I think if you're looking at what's going on right now, I like to start from where, I was confronted with a lot of, currently, I would say, when I was country director of Action Aid, okay. I walked through about 26 states in the country.
Oh, wow.
And that, of course, took me to, and with other work that I've done in the past in the grassroots, it took me to the community levels where you could see poverty raw. And so leaving that seat of the country director of Action Aid, we had more than 139 million people living below the poverty line. And actually that agency, that particular job was on poverty eradication.
Yeah.
Believing that if resources are judiciously used in a transparent and accountable form,
right,
people have no business being poor. And I believe that Nigerians, the kind of resources that we have in Nigeria, that if we use it for the way we ought to use it, if people are transparent, if there is no corruption, which is in a higher magnitude now, there won't be Nigerian children going to bed hungry at night. There won't be Nigerian children picking from the dustbin. So if when we were young, no child was picking from the dustbin, no Nigerian child was picking from the dustbin. And I remember that a politician once said, when they were talking that Nigeria were poor, people were hungry, he said, what are you talking about? Because no Nigerian, have you ever seen any Nigerian near the dustbin?
Yeah.
Because in other climes where people are poor, but in my lifetime, I'm seeing people rushing to the dustbin before you even drop anything. People are rushing to go and catch what is there in the dustbin, meaning that we have gotten down below. And so when you ask whether we are going the right direction, there is a lot of unemployment for the young people. You know, when we were young, those who were graduates, they had jobs, you know, seeking them already because there were organizations, institutions that were waiting to hire them. But we are now churning out thousands of young people, and there are not many industries. And we are watching our industries go down. We were hoping that by now, because even through from the Fourth Republic, you saw a lot of attempt about, you know, refurbishing the refineries and all of that, which can consume thousands. And you didn't know the after products of refining. You know, you have so many things that become very useful to other industries.
Right.
The Dunlops and all of those things, they would have been here still, but many of these industries also closed down because the cost of production became too much, and a lot of them had to pack out of Nigeria, and many are still closing down. So we don't have industries, we don't have jobs for young people, and we have some vibrant people. We have a stunted kind of population in the sense that you have a huge volume of young people who don't know where to go. What that means is that you are, you know, you have a lot of these young people who have graduated. There is nowhere to consume them. They wake up in the morning and they are sitting and watching. They have to eat. They have to be responsible. You know, after a couple of years after your graduation, of course, maybe you have a girlfriend or someone you want to marry, boyfriend, you know, and people you are talking about getting married, and people don't have jobs. And so it's a lot of contradiction. Now we have crisis almost in every part of or conflicts in many parts of the country. From where I come from, in my village, people don't sleep with their two eyes anymore because you don't know the next thing that will make you start jumping. You know, I come from Benue State.
Because of insecurity.
Because of insecurity that is happening. You have the conflicts going on. We have so many things, different types of conflicts going on. You have the bandits, you have the insurgents. Nigeria is not declaring any state of emergency at those levels. That's why I'm shocked that a state of emergency can be declared in a place like Rivers, for example, and for democratically elected people you declare. But where we have had crisis, there are so many local governments that are ungovernable because insurgents have taken root in those places. They don't return. And then where you find out...
No emergency declared.
No emergency declared in such, and you are seeing that where places that have been declared ungovernable, or where the insurgents get to put down their roots, there is no time that I have heard that those people have been the environments have been recaptured. You know, from what I know of, especially from my state and from so many of the states that I've worked. And so people, once they run to IDP camp, they remain in IDP camp. So there is a lot. The other side of it, which I will just come to, is on the issue of women representation. Because when we are having the crisis, the IDP camps, the gender-based violence, the kind of violence that is going on against women and girls, you know, that is really going on, you know, people are not talking about it. You have Chibok girls, they are still some of them are still in captivity. Nobody is mentioning them. Is it being debated in the House or in the Senate? Who is talking about that? And that is because if we have more women, I believe that some of them will practically be talking about these young children. Now we have another 320, or is it there about more over 200 girls?
Yeah,
you know, children have been taken from Niger State.
Some have been rescued, they said.
Some, they say they have rescued from Kebbi, they say they have rescued from, you know, is it Kwara or something? They say some have returned. How they were returned, we have no idea. We are in a country where a brigadier general can be taken just like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to put a gory issue, but can be taken. You have police officers, senior police officers that will lose their lives without anybody being answerable, you know, without sanctions. And then you have corruption in an untold, you know, serious corruptions. If they tell you, if you go to EFCC and they tell you how many people they have cases proven against them, but they are not hearing the cases in court, you will not believe it. And so, are we going through to the direction that we should be going, I think there's a lot of selfishness. You know, there's a lot of in attitude, a kind of attitude that you feel, you know, you can just go on like that. People used to get scholarships. I will talk of the students now.
Okay.
You know, people used to get scholarships. Those who are in government now, majority of them have scholarships to study because they all studied in public institutions. It's now that you have private institutions, universities, and all over the place. It wasn't there in the past. So if you got, you know, scholarship to go and study, what the country then was thinking about, the leadership of the country, was putting you in a pedestrian where you can develop your full capacity and you are developing your workforce. Because when you give people scholarship, you are actually not, you are not doing them any favor. You are producing the workforce for your economy, getting them ready. Because we are working on the stage. When you prepare these people, they're smoothing your economy and you are just working. Right. You need to prepare them for that.
True.
And so, but now you have students in the universities from 100 level, if they manage, and I can tell you, one of the vice chancellors told me, said, they were delaying their, is it matriculation? Matriculation, and people were wondering why the matriculation was being delayed. And they said, you know, about 2,000 students were admitted.
Okay, that's in a particular university.
In a particular university, and not up to 500 of them have had their acceptance fee.
Wow.
Because majority of those who are going to this place are people that belong to that more than 100 million that are living. They can't afford, they couldn't afford it. So they were delaying, hoping that more students.
Well, was that before the NEF fund that the administration has put in place? They said they have about maybe 300,000 families.
I think that happened shortly before the NEF fund. But how many millions is going through JAM in every year? And how much money is going out? That's not, when you have a shock to a system, that's not systematic.
Yeah.
You want to jumpstart something to say, okay, we can give a few, you know, then let them apply. And this is loan. Yes, the government was giving, at one time, was giving loans, student loans. People who were already even getting scholarships felt, you know, felt that they didn't have some adequacies, you know. So you had, you know, other alternatives that you can seek for funds. So I think what we are facing in this case is looking at, you know, a kind of responsibility that if you have been given something, you ought to do more for those who are behind you.
Yeah.
But now we are not investing in the human capital, and we have a growing population. We have a young population, meaning that we have a population that we have to continuously be developing.
Right.
So some of them are dropping out of from 100 level to 200 level. Many people are not going because schools have increased their fees. From 200 level to 300, 300 to 400. Yes. There are so many students dropping. If you go into research, you see that. And so what do? Even when you step it back, you find out that students who are going from GSS, GS3, you know, to GS1, they need to pay some fees. Parents don't have. Those who have made it to the SS, you know, they need to pay WAEC and NECO fees. It's more than 100,000 or thereabout. They don't have. Then you struggle. So we have some stunting, you know, that the population is dropping from our hands. And that's a lot of injury to the population.
So the question is, because you've painted a very, very, you know, unflattering circumstances, which are factual, you know, because we talk a lot about the question of human capital development, but your focus on education has actually even opened quite a whole of vista. What is the way out, in your own view? If we are supposed to start fixing it, what will be the first things that we do?
One of the things that I will look at is leadership by example. Our leaders, the political class, they should be role models. What kind of role models do we have now? How many politicians can you look at them and you say, I want to be like you? This is very, very important. Those were the things that were the fire that was building us when we were growing up. When you look at the story of the Sadana Osokoto, the Malam Aminu Kano, you are looking at Obafemi Awolowo, you are looking at Nnamdi Azikiwe, you know, you are looking at, you know, Satafa Balewa. and looking at them, very simple human beings, you know, they had no homes that they can call, you know, they are big homes anywhere.
They weren't ostentatious.
They were not.
Not flashy.
Not flashy, simple life, simplified. You go and do your job and you come home. On holiday, you see Satafa Balewa, you know, we sit down on the mat with his children, in the village with his children, and they're playing. Which politician is doing that now? And so what is happening now is that you strengthen the people, and then they start looking at you for hampers. And that is not a decent society. Mine is for that the political class need to look at every children of Nigeria as their own children. Because as long as you don't protect other people's children, yours cannot be protected. You know, I've discussed it with one politician. He told me, we were talking about, I said, your children cannot be protected when you don't protect other people's children. As long as the many are not protected, the few cannot be protected. And this is the reality that we're facing. Because whether we look at it or not, the soldiers, that's the Nigerian Army, the Nigerian Air Force, the Nigerian Navy, the Nigerian Police, Civil Defense, and so on and so forth. We endanger their lives so much. Because for me, as a woman, I look at the children of women that are suffering. And that is right from their small age. Because for a woman's life, children are children. We don't differentiate whether it's a boy or a girl.
Of course.
You know, you don't know. When God has given you, you hold on to them. If you have 5 children, all you know is that you have 5 children. You don't discriminate at that level. How they will protect their future. If women are therefore not inside in the decision room, where they are talking about their issues, we have maternal mortality rate that is one of the highest in the world. We are in the last 5. As if the last 5 countries with
the bottom 5.
The bottom 5 that we have been for so many years. For decades now. That's where Nigeria is still sitting, and we are not at war. Nobody has declared war. And so the issue of women representation in terms of peacekeeping, in terms of peace efforts, this is very, very important. At the IDP camp, when you look at gender-based violence, there's a lot of violence against women. And when we're talking about it, I know that during COVID, you know, it sort of increased, maybe because many people were at home with themselves. They didn't understand each other or whatever. But you know, the case of women's rights. When we discuss the women representation, people are not looking at it seriously. The 35% affirmative action that we're talking about, that we've been talking about from Beijing, which is over 30 years ago now, you know, Nigeria still has not domesticated. But they even went further to have a national policy that says 40%. So if we are not finding women in elected positions, have we found them in appointed positions? Government after government, the Obasanjo administration, Buhari administration, all of them promised 40% and all of that. All the promises, because women are majority in terms of voting population. And so you make promises to them, but once election is gone, you forget all of that. So from one government to the other, you know, that happens. But we are talking about the special seats bill now, which is an additional.
Which is for the National Assembly.
It's before the National Assembly now.
Would that also include the State Houses of Assembly?
Yes. What happens is, now we are talking about a constitutional amendment that will let that happen
in the federal and state.
In the federal and at the state level, but it has to go through the federal legislature. And once it is done, then they go down, they step it down to the houses of assembly, where if 24 or more, you know, takes it on.
Constitutional amendment.
It is a constitutional amendment. So that is what is going on right now. And where that is if you look at the leadership of the National Assembly right now, you have 109 senators. You have only 4 women. You have 360 members of the House of Representatives. You have only 16 that are women. In 14 houses of assembly, there are no women at all. Not a single woman.
In the country.
In the country. And those houses is talking about women committee. They have women committees. So who is discussing the issues of women committee? Who is discussing on what it is for a woman, you know, to want to have a baby, and the baby is pushing to come and cannot come? The danger that lurks. Who is going to explain that? if many of the guys who have been to labor room with their wives, they know what it is.
Absolutely.
They will think differently. And I think it's good for many people to experience that, to know what a woman really goes through. It's not, so what the bill is seeking is looking at 37 members of the House of Representatives.
Okay.
That is as proposed from the House of Representatives from Honorable Benjamin Kalu, 37, and then 37 in the House, in the Senate.
That is one per state.
Yes, one per state.
One in FCT.
Yes, but that changed. That changed when they went for the harmonization between the committee in the House of Representatives and the Senate. That changed. The 37 in the House of Representatives was retained, and then you have, that of Senate was adjusted to 6, which is almost an impossible level to one per geopolitical zone. But what remains also is that there will be additional 3 female members of the Houses of Assembly. What we are saying here is not that the men are to vacate their seats. It's an additional seat. And that is for the houses that don't have women at all. At least they'll be able to have this.
Yeah.
This is a shock, mechanism in order to correct the imbalance. Or at least to introduce more diversity.
Exactly. I mean, and I think this is something that you would expect we just say through. But I know that in the last National Assembly, it failed.
Ninth Assembly was thrown out.
Under I think it was Bajabiamila as the Speaker and Lawan as the Senate.
Yes.
So, what is the prospect now? What is happening currently? When are they going to vote, and how do you think that is going to turn out? Do we have the votes?
I will not say for the last, today marks 1 month since we had a gender desk
in the
National Assembly. And the desk is before, of course, the bill was proposed from the House of Representatives. We went through the system. There was a committee that was created by the Speaker of the House of Representatives as an advocacy team, to be able to lobby more members and all of that. And so we got the gender desk.
So we should commend Mr. Tajuddin and Mr. Kalu.
We commend, the Right Honorable
Speaker.
Yes, Speaker, for his leadership. And the deputy. The deputy actually was the proposal, of the bill, which we are very, very happy about. And I want to tell you that the House of Representatives actually gave a lot of commendations right from their first year. It's like, in 2024, they celebrated International Women's Day like no other. That never happened before in the House of Representatives. And then in 2025, they also did the same. So the Senate did that of 2025. But what I want to say is that, they've taken it and they really want this bill to pass. They've been lobbying. I know that one thing is now, what is even maybe difficult now, because a little difficulty we will see is why 6? Why not 37?
37 at the Senate.
At the Senate. And then why not 3 per houses? Per each, that's 1 per senatorial zone. One of the arguments during the committee, one of the things they were raising is that there ought to be 3 members of the House of Representatives from each state in order to raise the percentage competition in terms of comparison. You want to increase in the House of Representatives, or you want to increase in the Senate, you can't have equal numbers. I think that debate went on, and then what we have today, but we hope they can adjust it, because when you have 1 woman per geopolitical zone, how does that really work?
That's at the Senate.
At the Senate.
But what was proposed was to also have 37 in the House and 37 in the Senate.
Yes.
But it seems the 37 in the House seems to have been accepted.
It still stays.
But it's the 37 in the Senate that they want to reduce to 6.
Yes.
But what do you think are the prospects when they vote?
Being at the gender desks, for nearly
you have been there. You have been there physically.
Right there. I'm just
in the last 1 month. Right.
I'm just coming from there, and I want to say that There are lots of people who are in support of the bill. There are some people who are not decided. There are some people who are not for the bill. And my own is that when you are in a constituency, you know that your voters are also women.
Yeah.
What will this vote take from you? You talked about the 9th Assembly. Even the 7th Assembly threw it out because they thought they were going to lose the way it was proposed.
Yeah.
You know, they were going to lose their seat. And there was another bill, you know, even the current Senate, we have Senator Mungunu proposed the Gender and Equal Opportunity Bill.
From Bono?
Yes, from Bono proposed that. And so you have quite a number of people who are in support of what we're doing. And what we're saying is, nobody is talking about competition. Equality does not mean the same treatment. And I tell people, I said, okay, you, as someone who is married, how many times do you use the hospital in a year? How many times does your wife use it? So if there are no hospitals, who will it hurt? Who is feeling the pinch? Who is campaigning for it? Who will talk about the women's issues? Will you be able to speak about somebody with disability without the person for disability? You don't know anything. Yeah. You don't know the inconveniences that they go through. Yeah. You don't know the inconveniences that women go through.
Right.
And so their voice in a room, the voices of that inclusion will help you with a richer agenda for development, with a richer decisions that you will take. Because you put it, the quality of any decision depends on who is in the room.
Absolutely.
And so we want women in the room to be able to have a better quality decision. You know, nobody is saying you have to decide, because if you are just the person who is deciding for the family all the time, you will get it all wrong.
Very true.
If you don't have their voices.
Very true.
We are hopeful that it may pass, but I cannot give 100%. I am only calling on them to say that this will be history. I think the way they have pursued it, and the Senate President also said the 10th Assembly will not throw away women's bill.
Okay.
You know, so it made that promise.
When is the voting going to take place?
The voting is supposed to take, it was supposed to have taken place yesterday. You know, it was going to be last week. We're still having, you know, we don't know. It's like they shift it in the mood. It might be, maybe tomorrow, we don't know. But if it's not, but tomorrow is not a sitting, I think they have another special sitting. Debate may continue on Tuesday, but they were almost closing when I left the National Assembly, so I cannot tell exactly whether they are voting this year or they are voting, but I think they handled the electoral matters today.
Okay. I mean, thank you so much for your hard work. You know, we hope that the National Assembly is going to pass this particular bill. It is long overdue, you know, and like you said, you know, it should have consequences for the voters in the constituencies. I mean, that we should know those who are going to vote for this thing. We should know those who are going to vote against it. And we are going to make sure that the voters in their constituencies know exactly how they voted. Because you are right, you know, if we have more than half of our population being women, and we are not trying to synergize them into decision-making at the political level, then we have not started. I support the bill. We will be rooting for it, and we will hold all the members of the National Assembly responsible. We will find out who voted for what, and I can guarantee you that we will go after those who don't vote for this bill. Thank you so much, Comrade NLB, for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you.
I'm sure that we have to bring you back, because there are still a lot of issues that we would like to talk about, but our time is already fast spent. Thank you for your voice. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for your human rights activism. And thank you for standing up for good and very worthy causes, such as this special seat for women.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Inside Sources will be right back. Welcome back to Inside Sources. In this segment, I want to look at the issues of the EFCC with some of the allegations regarding whether it's selective in some of the trials or not. And to join me in that important conversation, I have a senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Dapo Akinyosu. Mr. Dapo, welcome to Inside Sources.
Good morning, Mr. Afadi.
Good to see you. So, what's your own take on these allegations that quite a few people, especially people in the opposition, have said that, EFCC is being selective in the people that they investigate and all of that stuff, and that they are, there is no even kill, there is no, it's not really objective, not fair. How do you, what's your response, being a lawyer yourself?
The politicians, opposition always make issues out of. Unfortunately, I don't think that allegation can be substantiated. Because when you say it is selective, that means they're only selecting a section or portion of politicians of financial crimes. And the EFCC does financial crimes generally. It is the high-profile ones that tend to make the news that brings this allegation of selective. From the statistics we can see, and even the more current ones, you will see that those who are being investigated, those who have even gone to prison, have almost always been members of the ruling party. For instance, the most recent one is that of the former Minister of Labour, a former governor, under the ruling party. So I don't know how the opposition will say it is selective if it is investigating a former governor, a former minister under this.
And that's Dr. Ngige.
Dr. Ngige. As you would also know, the former Attorney General of the Federation under this APC is also under investigation currently. So when you say it is selective, we need to be careful about the use of the word select.
Yeah. Well, it's the allegation. I think one of the people that has been quite upfront about that, or quite outspoken about that, is Senator Aminu Tambuwal, who said that, well, he knows that they are going after him because he has committed to the democratic removal of the president in 2027. And people have been asking that, okay, won't you respond to the charges? But he says that, well, look, they are going after him because he is a member of the opposition. Even the example that you mentioned, Mr. Malami, yeah, of course, it's APC, but he's now an ADC chieftain. And he's been making some quite, in my view, some curious allegations, even regarding Mr. Olukoyede, whom he says should recuse himself. Now, so what do you say specifically, should Mr. Olukoyede recuse himself because, of the Salami report, in your view?
I find it hard to put the correlation between Salami report, Malami, and Olukoyede. It is a very tenuous line. Was Malami part of the investigation? Was it part of the Salami panel? So in what basis does it think, or would that be say, that Salami report should recuse Olukoyede? Furthermore, Olukoyede was not indicted for anything under the Salami report. If I remember correctly, even Magu, who was the person who was really investigated, was promoted after that investigation, and he returned to the police. If there was anything that was found in that report, I don't think Magu would have been promoted. I don't think Olukoyede would have made it to become the EFCC boss. So to say to recuse yourself because you have been investigated and found innocent, not found wanting in any way, I don't think is a ground to ask a person.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the Salami investigation myself. And one of the things that people said about it, I remember Mr. Wahab Shitu, who was actually Magu's lawyer, had said that, look, I mean, even the whole aura of the thing being done in secret, that it wasn't very fair. It's interesting now that Mr. Malami, who apparently was behind that Salami investigation, is now bringing it out as some kind of alibi to get out of trouble. My view, and then you will comment, my view is that Malami is playing pranks, because if you look at it very carefully, there are some very serious allegations that are in the public space regarding the tenure of Malami. And it would seem to me that is trying to use this as a get out of jail free card, try to turn the case around and try to blow what is clearly in the public opinion, that he has some very compelling questions to answer. That's my view. What do you think?
Well, I'm sure Malami himself is a senior advocate of Nigeria. And it is very clear that an investigation is an investigation. Until he is proved guilty, he is free, he is innocent.
Mm-hmm.
But the courts have always said investigative bodies have the authority and the power to investigate.
Mm.
So at this stage, if there's nothing to hide, he should open himself up for investigation. Whoever is investigating him, if there's nothing to hide, if there are no skeletons, he'll be set free as well.
Mm.
I mean, so saying don't investigate me because you have been investigated, not even directly by me anyway, because Justice Salami was a Court of Appeal judge. And whatever the circumstances that surrounded it, it wasn't Malami that investigated him personally. It was a judge and a panel of other people.
Well, a retired judge.
A retired judge. But whatever it was at that time, and he's a member of he was a former member of the judiciary.
True.
A man who led ICPC at a time. So he had the credentials to do it. And if he had those credentials and did not find the loophole he didn't want, I don't see any reason at all how it should be used as a get out of jail free card, as you have called it, or a reason to stop any inquiry into activities you have done while you are in public office.
Yeah.
Most people in public office realize that at some point in time, your works will come after you. Make sure whatever you are doing, posterity can say you have done well. And if you have done well, it will be evident to all. If you have not done well, the fact will speak for itself.
Absolutely. And this is one of the reasons why the advocacy and the quest for rule of law, is very, very important, because ultimately, people will come in, we go in and out of political office, go in and out of political influence. The only thing that will become the defense for everybody is the rule of law. I remember, and then I make a comment, and then you make you respond. I remember that the cable newspaper, and several instances sent in, freedom of information request when Malami was Attorney General, and according to the report by Femi Owolabi of the cable, the thing was obstructed all kinds of ways. They didn't respond to it. They said that a copy of the judgment that was used is not satisfied to copy, threw up all kinds of obstruction, especially regarding the Abacha recovery. That many people believe that, look, the case seems to have been sorted out before Malami came. And the allegation is that when Malami came and brought a new lawyer, even though the matter seems to have been resolved, brought a new lawyer and had to request for payments that the finance minister refused. So all of those things just, puts a lot of cloud around his activity. And now he seems to be coming under the light to explain. And guess what he's doing? Oh, no, this guy is not the right person to do it. How about him just being man enough and say, yes, let's get into this? It goes to the question of the Nigerian political elite to understand that all of us, we need to protect and defend the rule of law, because it is the rule of law that we go on. You will go in and out of office. You will not always have influence. What do you say, Mr. Kyoshun?
Of course, that is a sad reality, which we have seen play out over and over again. But somehow, people when in office seem to forget that they would also leave office one day. And like it is said in the scripture somewhere, that there will come a time when there will be a Pharaoh who doesn't know Jews. The time will come when your influence will resign. That is why you find a lot of them, when they leave governorship, they fight to be in the Senate because they want to remain in the corridors of power so that they can protect the works they have done. They want to control whoever is taking the office after them, just to ensure that the things they have done are not brought to light. And it is the judiciary that often suffers the brunt. Because many people, I mean, like you said, selective investigation, selective prosecution, it takes a while to get these cases through the court system. Appeals are launched from the time it is filed, interlocutory appeals are filed to stall the process. And then you find the same person who has stalled the process crying again and saying that the trial is slow. Some people, and they use the legal system to actually frustrate even the investigative bodies. They run to court and get an injunction, don't investigate me. They come out after that and say, oh, my trial has been delayed. But they are the ones who are filing no case submission. They are the ones who... So the court takes a lot of time writing unnecessary rulings and judgments and even overburdening the system. And that is why you find that in the appellate system, there's a lot of delays and backlogs because these cases tend to clog the wheels of justice, clog the court diaries. And you find that the real serious matters are not going on. And I have advocated on different fora anyway, that all these interlocutory appeals should be discouraged. Finish your case at one level, then go up with everything you want to appeal against. Instead of going up, coming back again, they use that to waste time. And then 4 or 5 years, they're on the same case. So you then say the investigative bodies are slow, they're not investigating, but they cannot do all the cases at one time. They have to do them one after the other. Okay. And there's so many people that can do it. There's so many courts that can handle all these cases. And unfortunately, I think I heard recently, I think it was Alwan who was speaking on a program recently and said 90% of... 95% of ministers in the last administration ought to be in prison. I was also speaking to a minister then who says, seriously speaking, we should expand Nigerian prisons because every politician has to taste that. We should go and build comfortable prisons because at some point in time, they will need to visit that prison to realize that what you are doing now, you will pay for it one day. But because they believe that once they have enough money, they can slow the system, buy the best lawyers, fight very good cases in court, and it's sad. I was speaking to a judge recently, and I said, one of the things that I find most offensive is that the lawyers who use the wheels of justice to slow down the system are not punished. But everybody is just talking about the judges. But somebody takes these applications to the courts. Somebody has filed this application before the court for the judge to rule one way or the other. So, but the people who file those applications just walk scot-free. In other climes, I've had to work in other jurisdictions with lawyers. There are some cases that the lawyers will say, I cannot take this because our bar will punish me.
I will lose my
shirt. Sanctioned for even taking on this kind of case.
But who should be responsible for sanctioning the lawyers?
It is the Bar Association. It is the Bar Association that should do it first. But it's slow. There are a lot of technicalities that will be thrown up. They will file appeal in court. And we do see some people getting away with these things.
Yeah, because you are right. It's quite a thing that in spite of some of those dilatory tactics, we don't really have any good number of lawyers being even investigated or even questioned. I don't think we have even any good number at all.
In fairness to the Bar Association, they try. But I mean, they always, the ones that get punished quickly are the ones that are the ones who collect money from clients and don't refund, they don't buy the land, and those ones get punished and sanctioned. But the ones, what you will find is that the same people who are committing these bigger offenses are the ones who are at the top of the bar. So it's always difficult to get them to investigate themselves.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Let's begin to wrap up. I wanted you to comment on the work of the EFCC and the ICPC, in terms of the challenges that the country is facing around the issue of corruption. I remember that Mr. Lukayede had said that, oh, look, what is happening in NMPC is mind-boggling. I remember that Dr. Aliyu Musa too has been saying that, look, we want to do preventive strategy, so that we can stop these things before it happens. Are you satisfied as a senior advocate of Nigeria that we are actually going after this problem of corruption in a very formidable way?
Corruption is a hydra-headed monster.
It is.
And is very difficult to deal with. We talk about it, but those who fight it are in the trenches, and their lives are also in a glass case. Because when he leaves office, most people who have headed that institution are also investigated. I mean, he has been investigated before. He has been found not wanting, but
yeah, that's look at it.
Look at it. And you see that this corruption, he would always kick back. He will fight the people who are leading the system. But what has been set up by EFCC today is a very formidable force. They do try. And you can see a lot of internal cleansing even going on in EFCC. Quite often now you hear some officers have been retired, they have been investigated for any officer found wanting in the system. Now, at the top of it, you also see that they are putting up a strong fight against the big names and the big wigs and people that you would normally shy from investigating. So are they doing a good job? I think they're trying. In fact, I did speak to one of the judges who was handling some of these EFCC cases.
Okay.
And he said to me that anybody that EFCC charges to court, that is advised to them usually go and settle, because EFCC does a thorough investigation. Like they're not like other agencies that before they file a case in court, EFCC would have done thorough investigation. I have had to go and defend people before EFCC and try and get them out. And when I see the systematic and methodic way they go about their investigation, they would have gotten everybody around you first to come and talk. They would have invited everyone you have sent money to, received money to you, every bureau de change that you change money. They would have gone round about them before they invite the person. So by the time they're inviting a suspect, they usually have most of the information. In fact, when my client was there, they were looking on their computer because they had all his bank statements and they were corroborating the things he was saying with information they already had. So, and
interesting.
You have to give it to them that they do a thorough job in their investigation.
Okay. All right. Good. Since you are here, last question. What's your comments to the Supreme Court ruling that Mr. President certainly does have powers to suspend a governor? How do you view that?
Well, we haven't seen the full judgment. And what was seen was a summary. But even in that summary, it was an allusion that, yes, he has the power to do it. And they went into other jurisdictions to see, yes, the president, yes, the president has power to do it, but it has to be done through the legislative oversight. So even if the president does it, the legislature has a part to play in ensuring that it was well guided and it was done within the parameters. And so if the legislature supported it and approved it, then we have a problem. Because even if he was wrong, what can the Supreme Court say? The Supreme Court can only follow what they, for the ordinary man on the street, it's always difficult to understand sometimes what the court is saying.
Yeah.
Because the court is bound by what the law is. They will not
what is presented before you.
What is presented and the arguments, what they're asking for. So it will be unfair to say one way or the other until you have read the full judgment, understand the reasoning and why they came to that conclusion.
But some have argued, and I also think to personally reflect on this option that, look, we have to write our laws in very clear terms that in a democracy, having a president being able to discipline, suspend another elected governor, first of all, is undemocratic, and then secondly, it denigrates on the authority of the state assembly, which by law, by the constitution, ought to be the one to have oversight on the president.
Governor.
So on the governor, I think that, now that the Supreme Court has said that he could do it, I think we need to change the law. We shouldn't have a president being able to discipline a governor. Otherwise, we're back to military rule.
No, you see, I don't forget that this president was the one when Obasanjo was in office and he was governor.
Yes.
Challenged many of the things that Obasanjo did.
Yeah.
Going to the courts.
Successfully.
And he did it successfully.
Yeah.
So if And I think one of the grounds that the Supreme Court used was that the persons who brought that application were not the right people to bring it. But what was your locus for bringing it?
Right. That's in this
in this Rivers one.
Right.
But who is the rightful person to bring it? The people of Rivers did not bring it. The legislature in Rivers did not bring it. Could an individual in Rivers State have been the one to go to court to ask for this? Because sometimes the judgments seem to leave gaps in it that are unclear. And like you said, it is important that some of those judgments need to come. Okay, so if you say they didn't have power, maybe you will help us to know who has it
has the power
and give that judgment so that the next time a situation like this occurs, we will not be dancing around the technicalities of it.
Yeah.
But deal with the substance that, okay, so now we know it's not the people of Gombe that should bring this application.
It should be
a street man, a trader in River State can come from Rumo Okoro and come and file this application, and it will be heard. But when we leave it still hanging and subject to, well, when it happens again, we'll now start a trial of whether the president has the power or not. So it's not that the law is not there. It is now how the Supreme Court, because they also have that power to make laws by their judgments.
Yeah.
Right now, a lot of the judges hide between the cracks and stay with technicalities. It's not. I'm not so much about changing the law, but it is better to have the people who are interpreting the law to be emphatic and clear about it. That look, even if it was right, the legislature should have done something to stop it. If the legislature didn't do it, then we will do it. But hiding under the fact that it is not locals, and we haven't dealt with it. It still comes down to the judiciary being more decisive and being on the point of it.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Akinyosun, for coming to Inside Sources. Thank you for your comments. And thank you for the work that you lawyers do. We hope that our democracy will get stronger.
It can only get better.
Hopefully.
It will only get better.
Hopefully.
Otherwise, all we lawyers will be out of jobs. So we need to keep it working.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you.
And there you have it, another edition of Inside Sources. Like we always say, Nigeria will prevail. Nigeria will prevail means Nigeria will succeed. My name is Laulu Akonde. Thank you for watching. And by the grace of God, I'll see you at the next edition.